You guys, it is Thursday. And you know what? This is the first Thursday where THORChain is back. We are back, baby. I absolutely love it. The protocol is humming along. I have so many things to say. But you know, Kenton, we're going to do this intro and I'm going to try and do it nice and calmly because I'm freaking out over here. Okay. Are you guys ready? Let's get this party on the road. THORChain is the world's leading Bitcoin DEX for those who have not heard. You can swap 13 different blockchains across 41 different pools without using bridges or wrap tokens. Check it out at swap.thorchain.org, swap.thorchain.org. Anyone in the world can use THORChain. There's no account to open, no KYC required, and privacy is a human right. THORChain has two tokens, Rune and TCY. The fees for swapping on THORChain are paid in Rune, and that's where the yield comes from. The fees are deducted from swaps, so you don't need to own Rune to trade on THORChain. Pretty cool, you guys. The Rune token is also deflationary, as 5% of the fees are burned. 10% of protocol fees goes to TCY token holders. Remember to stake the TCY tokens in order to collect this yield. There are no block rewards on THORChain. The protocol fees are real money paid by real users. THORChain is more than just a DEX, you guys. It is a programmable layer 1 with the ability to create smart contracts on it and dApps. This app layer is being developed by Rajira. Check it out. If you need help with THORChain in general, join the THORChain community Discord and Telegram group. Links for those are on thorchain.org, thorchain.org. And on thorchain.org, you guys, you can join our email list. It's the best way to stay up to date with THORChain and the latest stuff. Definitely do it. It is worth your time. And always remember, guys, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The THORChain community does not endorse or condone illicit activity of any kind whatsoever. Boys and girls, we are freaking back. We did it. It's been a month where we've been offline. I'm excited. It's party time. Let's go. I am so pumped up. You guys don't understand. You don't understand. Holy crap, that was loud and that made a mess. Do I regret doing that? I absolutely do. But I am so happy, guys. We are here. Kenton, I'm going to kick it to you, brother. You got an update for us. What is it?
That was great, man. How long did you plan that? You've been sitting on that for a while, I betcha.
You should have just like implanted like an explosion of a propane tank.
Yeah.
You're muted, by the way, Denny.
That's awesome, Denny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good, man. Not as good as you, but definitely excited trading is back. It's nice. Really nice to be moving forward again. Yeah, I'm gonna give you guys a quick update before I pass over to Chad. So the email newsletter should be good. I think we sent out the first one yesterday. I'm pretty sure that went live to everybody. And so we're gonna send them out every Wednesday is the plan. And so yeah, that should be good. If you have any issues with the way it's showing up on your email inbox, please let us know. Because I've had what looks good on Proton Mail or Gmail then doesn't look right on Outlook. So I've had to fix a bunch of things. So yeah, if you let me know. So hopefully that's done. Get that going regularly. What else? We're live streaming to Facebook right now. So thanks, guys. We got all the likes, followers. I get it. No one here probably cares about Facebook. I get it. But there's 1 billion people on it.
Not even Zuckerberg really cares about Facebook, to be honest with you. Like, he's been trying to leave Facebook forever. Like, he just renamed it to Meta, spent billions of dollars on like augmented reality. None of that worked. Did the whole AI thing, that didn't work out so well, and now they have a new thing they're working on. So I don't think even Zuck even really cares about Facebook.
Threads, that's been a failure, right?
Threads,
yeah.
They acquired a bunch of things. None of that really panned out any kind of measurable way. I saw something the other day that there were like some new acquire or something. I don't know what it was, but it was like a whole new technology play. I can't remember what it was. I wish I did because it was really embarrassing, but. Yeah, nobody cares about Facebook.
Yeah. But there's still 1 billion people, that have accounts. And it didn't cost none of you guys to, all it does your time, 30 seconds a minute to go log in, go follow THORChain. Only took me a few minutes, let's call it 30 minutes to connect Riverside to Facebook. So it's free distribution,
Yeah.
right? So every little bit. TikTok, on the other hand, I fell into like a few hour rabbit hole on AI and TikTok help articles. I can't figure it out. Um, their help articles have not kept up with the changes on their platform either. So apparently there is a way we can stream without having 1,000 followers. I think I can somehow use like our Twitter account to kind of like,
Oh, channel it through.
well, no, just be like, hey, we have a presence on Twitter. We have hundreds of thousands of followers. Have that count towards our follower count on TikTok type thing. I can't figure out how to apply. It
Yeah.
says you can, but I can't. Anyway, I gave up for a while. Maybe I'll look into it later. But that'll be the next goal. Just for the same reason, if we can get live streaming on TikTok, and that is, lots of young people are on it, right? Facebook might be more for boomers, but young people are on TikTok, so it'd be nice to get on there. And so we'll keep at it. What else? We had a good chat with Morpheus Chat. It's like I don't know how to explain it, but like an AI kind of crypto platform. And sounds like their token is an ERC20. So we're going to get their contract address whitelisted so they can create a liquidity pool. And so that should be really easy. We'll get a new community. Going to have David from Morpheus on the podcast here in August to tell us all about it. So that's cool.
Yep.
Little wins like that are great. I was thinking about it too. Like maybe we should go through like a list of ERC20s and just kind of see who's not really on any dexes. Maybe they have an arbitrary Uniswap pool, but might be interesting to reach out to some of them. Hey, do you guys want to access Bitcoin liquidity?
Yep.
Because adding an ERC20 pool is extremely easy, right? It's not, all the work is done, right? So no extra cost for nodes, no extra cost for Star Squid. And at minimum, they want to provide liquidity. We get, some buy pressure on room and they go buy the tokens to create the pool. So that might be something worth exploring.
Sure.
So anyway, so I got that cooking in my head. The other thing is, now that trading is live, Keplr wallet on STO, support for EVM chains should be done this week. And then next week, they'll get the UTXO chains done. So we're working on Keplr wallet, guys, on STO. And we're still working on finishing the affiliate page there, so we can start streamlining the process of bringing on new partners, giving them the API key. Are kind of where we're not stuck, but just trying to figure out how to do it best is getting the partner to get their Thor name and my name. And the more I think about it and walk through the user journey, I think we kind of force them to get it up front. And then they can go fill everything out, fill out their fees they want to collect, fill out the token they want to receive. So yeah, I think that's going to be kind of the cost of using our interface and using our free API, is that they're going to have to get a Thor name and my name. And there's no real cost. The only cost of doing that is just mental burden, right? Like it's just a lot of steps, but these guys should be devs. They should be smart enough. They should be able to go through it. So, so anyway, so we're just ironing out that user flow and experience for the partners. So one thing, Danny, you mentioned about getting my marketing promoting going. I have some good news and bad news. So I'll start with the good news. Eric from Mocha put me in touch with this guy who has a platform to hire KOLs, in a sense. And it's called Creatorverse, I think. And So I had a call with them the other day. Actually, it went pretty good. It was really interesting. I really like how they set it up. So instead of just like getting a list of KOLs and what their fees are, and then I'm like, okay, I'll pick these 10 guys, give them each $1,000, and then they have to go make 5 posts. Whatever. I'm just making that up, right? That's traditionally how this whole KOL industry works. And what this Creatorverse is doing is you come to them with money and they create a contest. And they'll say, okay, any KOLs, you want to participate in this campaign, whoever gets the most likes, retweets, whatever, you get points and you're on the leaderboard. And whoever gets first, second, third, 10th, 20th, whatever, you get so much money. And so obviously whoever comes first gets the most. And what it does is 2 things is, one, you get KOLs who are actually interested in promoting that story. Like they actually think, okay, is this something I can compete on? Is this something my audience will resonate with? And then 2, you kind of get them going a bit above and beyond. It's not just arbitrarily making 1 or 2 or 5 posts. They can make 14, they can make 30. They're doing whatever they can to get up that leaderboard. And so I think the game theory works where you kind of you squeeze a bit more out of people. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys ever went to like a yoga class where it's donation based. People generally pay more than what a regular drop-in fee would be, because they don't want to, kind of like tipping. Most people always want to give a bit more than less because they want to be perceived as cheap type thing. So I like to think we would squeeze a bit more out of these KOLs as far as their output is concerned, as opposed to just hiring them outright. And then also too, I grilled them on like, well, how do I know their followers are real, their likes are real, the replies are real, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, this is part of what we sell, Creatorverse, is that they're vetting all the KOLs. It's permissioned, who they let on their platform. And then they go through all of those accounts to see, what is the quality of their followers. And then they rank them within their own platform. So I'm not trying to say it's perfect, but at least in its attempt. And so actually, I kind of like it. So I'm gonna give it a go. I'm gonna wait for trading to resume, see what revenue's like, see how our working capital is in the marketing fund. But I think I want to give it a shot. I can do with like 10, 15 grand type thing. So and access like 50 or 100 different KOLs. Sorry,
Yeah,
Pat?
I'd just be concerned about like that. Just sounds like a bot dream. Because if you're going off of likes or retweets or something like this, then like you get a bot farm together and generate 100,000 likes and retweets and whatever.
And so he walked me through their process and how they vet that and they avoid that.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see. I like what he has to say, the way he's trying to prevent that. But you're right. Any KOLs that have reached out to me, I go look up their profiles. I'm like, this is all bots. Like, there's no way this is real. So, anyway, yeah, I'm going to look further into that. I think that's something you might want to, I'll give a try. I'll see if I can find out who maybe they can give me an example of their KOLs that I can actually go check them out myself. So yeah, so I am looking into it, working on that, guys. Kind of the bad news, was talking to another KOL from the Monero community.
Mhm.
And I don't know how to explain it, guys. Like we just got cross thread. And
Cross thread?
yeah, so I'm letting you know because the guy's a bit unhinged. And I don't know if he's gonna like go out and then talk shit on THORChain based on our private conversations. So basically, he gave me a price, and I'm like, well, that's pretty expensive relative to your views and whatnot. Like, I can't, help justify this. He started getting pretty defensive, and we're going back and forth. He's coming up new deals to me, and we're trying to negotiate, and like every time I try to understand, his new deal. He gets mad at me that I'm not accepting it. It was almost like he's trying to bully me into some kind of, doing this. And yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It was like he's trying to sell me, and I'm like, this is the worst sales process I've ever been involved in. But kind of person who constantly interrupts you, would never kind of listen to anything I'm trying to explain to him. And so anyway, we got like, I don't want to say heated, but like we were definitely we were arguing back and forth. I'm like, this is not working like this. And he kept interrupting me, tried to stop him. Dude, stop interrupting me. Then he just hung up. So it's the first time I've been hung up on in a long time. So the reason I'm letting you guys know is I don't know. This guy's emotional. I don't know if he's going to go, get on his platform and start ranting about THORChain about something. If
Honestly,
he does,
I'd be excited about it.
well, yeah, well, just letting you know, just in case it happens, because of the conversation we had, I'll know who it is, obviously. I'm hoping he doesn't come to that. He just, keeps it to himself. But yeah, it was just really.
But I would love to hear what he's going to rant about. Like, what does he hate about? What is his,
this was actually
stance that he was moments ago willing to be paid money to talk about it, but now he's going to say, "Oh, I hate THORChain sucks because of some reason."
This was part of the thing is like, because he's trying to justify a higher price. He's like, I'm taking on a lot of risk, a lot of reputational risk to support THORChain, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to pay somebody who views THORChain as a risk. Like, I want you to be excited and be happy to talk about THORChain. If you think it's a risk for you, I don't want you to take it on. He's like, well, it is a risk, and you guys did this, and you guys were just down for a month.
But what is the risk here?
Dude, again, you're talking logically. This, so
is the risk that like the network collapses in 6 months? And
no, I think for him is his reputation in the Monero community is at risk because THORChain has a sordid reputation amongst the Monero people. And if he hitches his wagon to THORChain, that could affect his relationships with other Monero people, which is what he is most concerned about. And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm paying somebody to kind of talk about and promote THORChain, it's to kind of like see through all that and like try and like not give into that kind of stuff. And he's like, well, you can't I don't want you telling me what to say. And if there's problems with THORChain, I got to be able to say it. I'm like, I'm not saying, I don't want you to lie or anything. Just be objective about stuff. Like, it was really weird. It was really, and then he was telling me he's not I'm like, how do I say? I'm not going to pay a KOL who is going to talk crap about THORChain. He's like, well, I'm not a KOL. And I'm like, well, what am I paying you for? And so I'm like, it was just really awkward and weird and
I think it's actually good news, Kenton. You figured out, you could have made a deal with this person and it could have blown up later, right? You nipped it in the bud. You never know who you're going to do.
Well,
I think it's great. And look what this guy say. As a Monero bro, I'm very excited about Monero integration. Thank you.
Yeah. Ordinarily, I wouldn't say anything, guys, right? Things always happen behind the scenes that you don't need to know about. But it's just like, there is a smidgen, with emotional people, they go unhinged, right? And you don't know where it's going to go. So if he does anything like that, I'll know who it is. I'll be able to call him out, but I'm just kind of giving you guys forewarning. And also just kind of tell you too, like I do, like I am talking to KOLs and all this. I don't say yes to everybody. I do vet it. If you're curious, the price he quoted me versus what I just paid Sal and Mark was 300 times higher on a per view basis.
Wow. That's
so I'm really glad you said news. Good news, Kenton.
I'm like, and honestly, I'm like, you got to help me out here, man. And I did want to work with him. So I think he is, had some good influence in Monero, but the numbers just weren't making sense. And anyway, So yeah, just letting you guys know, just in case. And then also too, it kind of gave me good insight into the Monero community. Cause like if he is this well connected and does kind of represent, a lot of the influential people in Monero, and not represent, but like is a reflection of them, then we might have a little bit of upward battle on our hands if everyone's this emotional and irrational. It's going to be hard to break into that audience and communicate with them. Um, I'm hoping that's just a small subset, a small cohort or whatever,
It probably
and
is.
most people are more rational.
I recall I went to the Monerotopia conference years ago. I was invited by Douglas to come and talk and whatever. And this is when we were early talking about adding Monero, back then. This is in 22, probably 21. And there was this hesitation around, THORChain at the time. And to be honest, I genuinely don't understand it, because us coming to you and providing a service, right, for your community is a net positive. Not even, it's only positive. What is the negative here?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
only positive. We are contributing to your kind of your economy, your ecology, whatever you want to call it. And what's what? What is the issue here?
Yeah.
It's just we're giving you trades in and out of Monero that you can integrate with wallets and blah blah blah, and there's no KYC. Blah, blah, what is the what are you upset about? I don't get it.
Yeah, I think there's so much. There's just negative press out there. People are coming from an emotional basis, it's just hardwired. But I think when XMR goes live, and they see the massive inflows of these other exogenous ones into XMR, the very thing we're trying to do, I think it's going to subside pretty quickly. What
I hope
THORChain has
so.
done, especially. I hope so too. I think it would.
Honestly,
We'll see.
I would bet $1,000 that those people who say, fuck THORChain and part of the Monero community specifically, or other ones, and then within a reasonable amount of time, they're using THORChain themselves because they want to trade in and out of Monero, and they don't want to go through KYC sexes, because who the fuck wants to? And they're going to use it. They're going to use the platform that they're so against. And I will guarantee it that the vast majority of those people are still going to use it just because it actually is a valuable service that we're providing for that community. And I don't think people would just not use it on some philosophical basis.
I would encourage anyone listening to this, if you think you understand the history of THORChain, if you're new, please take the time to just understand that there's so much information out there about THORChain that's just wildly incorrect, and we are do our best to correct it. Feel free, guys, to put comments in the public chat of this podcast. If you have a question or concern about THORChain, if you're XMR and you want to know, we'll tell you. There is no censorship here. We don't care. THORChain's made mistakes in the past. We don't hide from that. We own it. But this stuff's really complicated, you guys. So, we always improve, we adapt, and we get better. So anyway, I'll kick it back to you, Kenton, if you got something else.
Yeah, no, and it's just, I would think a Monero person, someone who's into Monero, I think is minimum IQ higher type thing, right? They understand the importance of privacy. Not everyone has the cojones to understand that. They do. So I'd like to think they're, the cognitive reasoning abilities are higher than the average person. So I'd like to think they can understand what THORChain is and provides. And the hack that happened, THORChain being offline has no effect on swappers, right? If you have your crypto in self custody, you're fine, you're safe, right? So hopefully I'd like to think they can separate the two, and Monero could go live and we could have issues with the Monero pool, but that has no effect on the Monero sitting in your wallet. And if something happens, if just so happens you have a trade going through, correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but if actual trades have ever been affected, I think we've refunded everybody. So it does happen every now and then. There's a issue with THORChain and a trade, something happens to your trade and we refund people. But these hacks, or THORChain being offline, has nothing to do with individual swapping. That's always been safe. And so just don't deposit THORChain, don't deposit Monero onto THORChain. Don't provide liquidity. Like that's pretty simple. Just use it to swap. And it's pretty darn safe. Like swapping on THORChain is extremely safe. Safer than these other so-called decentralized exchanges where they can freeze your trade, right? So anyway, so enough. Yeah, don't want to lament on that. I don't want to kill Denny's vibe. Sorry, guys. I think I brought the vibe down in the party. Sorry.
Do I have to do another one? I
You got
have
to do
more
another
ammunition.
one. Yeah, sorry, guys.
No, let's go. Oh, damn, it didn't work. Yeah, let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, no, guys.
Did you have that plan for something else?
July 4th. Right now, I'm going to tell you July 4th.
Dude, I just have explosives in the house. I don't ask questions. You know what I mean?
It's red, white, and blue streamers here.
Get one of your
July
guns.
4th.
Come on, man.
Okay, who wants to see Despot?
There you go.
Despot. Pop a gun. Pop.
I don't want to put a hole in my roof, you guys. It might rain today, but I am so excited, you guys. Yes, we're back. THORChain's back. You said something very interesting, Kenton. You know, we do. To my knowledge, we've refunded everybody as well. There are 1 or 2 people, as far as I'm aware, who have been waiting 2 months. We have to refund on new versions, you guys. And then unfortunately, we had the exploit and we've been down for over a month. So you may see someone online saying, hey, I've been waiting 2 months. They are known, and they are being addressed. So just want to point that in case, you know, that person is listening or they see that post. So we are going to, but yeah, we're back, boys. Very serious cryptography attack on us, very sophisticated actor, but we have recovered and the thing is back on. So maybe this is a good time to kick it to you, Chad. You know, we are back. Do you have anything you want to say? Any thoughts on this? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we're back, which is great. This kind of attack is one of the hardest to recover from. This and when we have like a chain consensus halt, where we don't know what the problem was, right? And then it just becomes like, you know, like a needle in a haystack kind of situation. Those are they're the most complicated, the most difficult to come back from. If something happens in THORnode and, you know, we have all the log, we can nail down what happened, you know, typically within like an hour or 2, you know, and get to the bottom of things. But with TSS, stuff like this, where like shares are stolen, blah, 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 like that's a lot harder because the attack itself happens between peer-to-peers of different validators. And me as a developer, I don't have that information. I don't have that. I'm not part of that communication. So I just don't have any facts or evidence, very little facts and evidence to go off of to actually find what the actual issue was. Like it's very difficult to get the bottom of, which is why it takes so long to figure it out versus like it took like a week or so, whatever the hell the number was, less than a week. So it just takes a while even just nail down what the actual thing that happened, and then to make sure that you've nailed down the correct thing, not some other bug that's not unrelating to the thing, right? Like you want to pick like the thing, not so much a thing. And so it's just a very complicated and difficult thing to actually like go through and recover from, which is why it takes as long as it takes. And then we just found some other things along the way, and we had problems with nodes, like not, you know, the verify key thing wasn't working perfectly, and there's like other things that kind of came up and make things just to complicate things even further. But yes, we're finally online. We're finally trading again. We can get back to the roadmap, which I'm super excited about. You know, and start to like launch these really kind of big features we had coming out in the next few months. Which on that topic, we have a new version coming out, 3.19.2, which I think is cut today. And it'll be coming like out to the nodes soon. I don't know, maybe tomorrow or Monday, I'm guessing. And with that is a fix for Solana so that we can churn again, because there's some bug or issue with Solana right now. But also embedded in 3.19.2 is Monero. And so once we get adopted to 3.19.2, there's a little bit more testing internally to do, but that's the code we're probably going to go with for like launching mainnet on Monero. And which there's a decent chance that we'll be launching Zcash and Monero at the same time, possibly. Not guaranteeing it necessarily, but if there's an opportunity to do so. We have to get the nodes to adopt Monero in the sense of like building a Monero node and syncing that to the tip, which takes, depending upon your resources, 2-3 days or so, or something like this. So it'll be a little while before we can get Monero launched because we will require the nodes to, get the infrastructure ready and all this kind of stuff. But I think we're going to be having Monero live on mainnet early relative to the last time we talked about this. I think last time I said like a month after we get trading again. At the last time we had this conversation, a month after we get trading again, which was a couple days ago. I think we'll probably get it done closer to like 2 weeks, to be honest with you, something like that.
Nice.
Wow. You heard it here, you guys. XMR well, testing never stopped, right? We had this issue, we had our cryptographers, but work on chain clients never stopped. We still are building in the background. Obviously, we are delayed, but we kept plinking away, kept testing. And just shout out, obviously to Boone from him starting the whole process. Thank you, Luke Parker from Sarai, for open sourcing his Frost TSS. It also was instrumental as well. We love it. Very exciting, man. In XMR guys, I hope you're excited because this is so huge. I mean, this will be the first ever real layer 1 to layer 1 permissionless, decentralized access to your liquidity. I'm saying these words, but I'm not really conveying the profound meaning of them. This is privacy for anyone in the world. I mean, if I start talking about it, I might get a little emotional. This is a very powerful moment. I'm so blessed to see this. And maybe we should also say, guys, like, this is the most complicated chain we're ever going to add. Please, like, the pools will be shallow. Do not attempt big swaps at first. Understand that we may have to pause it right away. There may be bugs because when we have a test environment and we test as hard and vigorously can, but mainnet's a whole other animal. So please keep in your heart, please keep in your mind that there may be problems right away, but we will resolve them. It'll get better and better with the chain client. Every new chain client we add, whether it was Doge, AVAX, Binance Smart Chain, it doesn't matter. They've always had their own nuanced issues. Let's hope for a clean start, but FYI, guys, just remember that. Go ahead, Ken.
I was actually just thinking about it earlier today. A cynic could look at THORChain and be like, "Oh, the hacks and THORFi, and now you guys are offline for a month. Oh, the Monero pool is live. Oh, you had deposits and this and that, and maybe all this negative Nancy stuff." And it's like, we are in the forefront of technology in DeFi with THORChain, right? And and then you think about SpaceX, was a $2 trillion IPO, whatever it was. Well, I don't know how huge it was. Now it's one of the biggest companies in the world. That company started blowing up rockets on purpose, not on purpose, but it was like, this is part of the learning process.
Actually, it was on purpose at first. They had to make sure the detonation sequence did work. So they did actually blow up their own rockets at first. Yes.
All right, there you go.
Go ahead.
But some of them was just like, we're going to push the limits of engineering and see where does it blow up or not, right? And they spent a few $1 billion doing that, and it's like, this is the same thing that everything THORChain is going through, and it's like, we have to be able to fail. If you expect to get everything perfect and right when you're doing something brand new for the first time, never been done in history, like, you're insane. And it's
you're a person who's never built anything in your life.
Yeah.
If you have that mentality that like everything should be perfect, then it just means that you just have never done anything with your life in terms of like building something.
Yeah. And so it's like, I know people listening. I think most people get it who are listening, but it can be frustrating trying to get that through to the general public, right? But if somebody is listening, does get frustrated with things happening with THORChain, just keep that in mind. Like, we're on the frontier here. Like, this is all brand new. Like, even we talked about GG20. We're the first people using it in this way, right? So be patient with Monero on that pool. If we have some issues, just we'll get her done.
Yep.
Absolutely, we'll get her done. Yeah.
Yep.
Chad, man, this is obviously, the network's back. I'm super excited. Everyone's been so happy. I just want to say thank you to you, the devs, and the cryptographer at Soda Labs over there. They're still working, still making sure, because the TSS library has not been open sourced yet. We do want to do that at some point. They're still testing. Do you have an update on that front? Because I did get a couple questions.
Yeah, I think that we're going to be making it public as part of 3.20 when that comes out, which that will be cut probably on like mid-July. And then get released to the nodes like a week or 2 weeks later. So will be public again, in a few weeks. I'm not too worried about that, to be honest with you. But it is important to, like, we are an open source project. We want the code to be open source. There's no questions about that.
What do you guys need to see? What are you looking for before you open source it?
It's just a matter of the cryptographers just want to take even more time and do an even deeper deep dive into the TSS code to look at every rock in every corner and nook and cranny and just spend more time with the code base, and it's better just do that in a closed source way where you have time to review yourself, and then once you've done like enough of the audit, you can say, okay, we've looked through everything we can look through. We believe we've found anything to find, and then we're ready to open source it again.
What about because the exploit was possible based on like combining 3 different P5s or whatever you call them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do we have a backlog of? I know P0s you guys update and fix right away.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a backlog of any of these like P1s, 2s, 3s that we should push through and get done?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's a little bit of like a double-edged sword. So I recently, made some changes to Huginn to make it kind of better in some ways. And its code auditing ability is it's actually kind of amazing, to be honest with you. Like, I'm kind of shocked how good it is. And I've pointed at like 5 different repos, one of them being the TSS private library. And in all of the repos, it finds like hundreds of issues, hundreds of them, right? Of varying severity. Some are P5, some are P0s. Most of them are P1s or P2s. Like, that's where the vast majority of them kind of sit. And so I was just talking today with the rest of the team. We had an engineering meeting earlier today, and I brought this up with the Solar Labs team of like, we have this TSS library. I forget how many. It's like, I want to say close to 200 or so issues that Huginn has opened up. And they're varying degrees of severity, but that's part of the process, is to review those issues as well. And if anything worth patching, we'll patch. But at the same time, we don't want to like go patching everything, because the intent really is to move off of GG20. So it's like, how much resources do you really want to spend, going through hundreds of issues, versus just like spend the time just going to DKLS, or something like it, right? It's a little bit of like a balance there. So like, obviously we're going to go through them all and we'll prioritize them, appropriately. And the ones that are severe enough, we'll patch, of course. And the ones that are like less severe, we'll probably just leave those alone and then just move on to DKLS as soon as reasonably possibly we can.
So that's for me, that feels like something kind of new. I thought last time we talked about GG20 versus DKLS, it was, well, it's better the devil we know. So we'll stay with GG20 for now. And, we'll look at DKLS, FROST, whatever. It seems like since our last conversation about it, seems like you guys are now your mind is set on DKLS. Like, this is the direction you want to go.
I think we've agreed that DKLS is the direction, or one of the two directions to go, actually. The question before was, when we had the hack, was like, do we kind of just push the panic button and move to DKLS like right now, right? And not even muck about with GG20 and, and just like, or do we just like solve the GG20 problem as best as possible? And then once we're back online and trading again, then start putting in the time and resources. Because it's not an easy change to make. You can't just change cryptographies as on the weekend. You know what I mean? It's a complicated change. And obviously you're moving funds from one cryptography to another one, and that's dangerous, inherently dangerous, right? So you want to make sure you do it, appropriately and take your time as best as you can. So I think we all agree that like everybody wants to get off of GG20 and move to DKLS. And then there's also the idea that we also want to move to something like FROST and use FROST for ECDSA chains where it's possible to use FROST on ECDSA chains. So you generally can't. So you can't do it for Litecoin or Dogecoin. But you can do it for like EVMs, because you can use like a smart contract as a little bit of shim layer between the 2 points, in a sense, to kind of do a conversion, if you want to call it that. And you can do it with Taproot on Bitcoin. It does support short signatures. So you can use Frost for that case. And so I think the idea is that we're going to move to both Frost and DKLS. We'll use Frost where we can, which is EVMs plus Bitcoin, and we'll use DKLS on other ones where we can't use that as an option, like Litecoin and Doge and so forth. And the reason why is because Frost is a much simpler, cleaner cryptography than DKLS. It's a much smaller kind of surface area, if I can kind of put it that way. So it makes securing it a lot easier because it's a lot simpler thing to secure, versus something like DKLS is actually, it's complicated. Probably not as complicated as GG20. GG20 is probably significantly more complicated, but DKLS is not like, it's not simple by any stretch of the imagination, but it is better for sure. Or at least that's the general consensus with all the cryptographers that I've had conversations with on this, professional cryptographers. They all unilaterally agree that DKLS is better than GG20. I haven't had anybody argue otherwise. And in fact, people that have talked about it, they're like adamant about it. They're like very strongly DKLS is a better cryptography than GG20. And I think they would probably, I haven't had the conversation, maybe I will one of these days, but like with those people of like asking their opinion about Frost versus DKLS, usually those two things aren't interchangeable because they're two different signature types, right? One's a Schnorr, one's not. But in some cases you can use either on a blockchain, like on the EVM or the Bitcoin would be examples of that. So that is kind of like the one of the higher priorities for the security team is to start the process of moving to DKLS or Frost. I'm not sure which one we'll do first, but we'll probably move DKLS on like a per chain basis to like roll it out slowly over time rather than like in a one fell swoop. Because if there's any problems, obviously you don't want to have all the assets at risk. You want to have as little as possible. So we'll probably roll it out to like maybe Doge first or maybe Litecoin first, because there's like smaller, like, amount of TVL that we have for those chains. Roll out to that one first. Okay. Churn was great. Signing's great. Funds move great. Whatever, right? We're not seeing huge key sign failures, problems. We're not seeing key gen issues or whatever, or just iron those out on smaller chains rather than like all the chains simultaneously. That would be, a little bit of a faster way of going at it, but not as, safe way of going at it. So I think the intention is definitely to move off of GG20, and we'll be doing that over the coming months. How long that will take, I don't have a reasonable answer to give you that. I really don't know. But that is a process that we're going to be going through for the next, probably a couple months at least.
Well, the Monero pool is going to use Frost, so that'll be a good implementation, good test, right?
It is, but it's a different Frost than Frost. So it's a different, it is a Schnorr signature. It is Frost, but it's a different variant, if you want to call it that. So you can't use the library we're using for Monero. We cannot use that library for something else. So we have to find a different library, like, which we haven't even started this process, by the way, but like we got to go out into the world, find a Frost implementation, which maybe like Chainflip uses Frost, and maybe that's the one to borrow from, right? Because that's been in production for a while, and maybe that's the right choice. I don't know. We have to do our analysis, but we have to we also have our requirements. Like, I don't know if that implementation of Frost has identifiable aborts. Figuring out if somebody screws up the key sign or keygen process, who is the asshole who did that, so that we can blame them and slash them accordingly, so that we know if somebody's holding up the key sign or the keygen, we know who it is, and we can, address it accordingly. I don't know if Frost implementation for Chainflip has that capability or not, right? So that's going to be a process that we're going to have to go through and find a more standard implementation of Frost that we can use for EVM chains and Bitcoin.
Very good.
Cool.
We do have an audience a question from the audience. Kenton, did you want to add anything that Kenton just said before I transition to that?
Maybe just bring up. I think, I don't know if it was the last podcast or before, you floated the idea of using moving the pools to like a multisig on each vault, and so say it's a two multisig. One key could be DKLS, the other key could be Frost. Are you still entertaining that idea, or is that just?
Yeah, so the engineering team and the security team mostly have a meeting next week to discuss this idea, and among have probably a dozen other ideas of like other things. Like we've been talking all sorts of crazy concepts, and not probably majorities won't actually get shipped, but just throwing ideas around, and part of that is like maybe having like hot wallets and cold wallets, right? Like and with like using the same cryptography and the same nodes, right? In a matter of speaking, but by having a hot wallet where you're signing things all the time, and then a cold wallet where you're like topping it up every once in a while, right? You have a lot less signatures. That creates a lot less opportunity to attack this vault because there's less signatures to extract the keys, right? Because and then in this recent attack, there was this like thing of like hundreds of key sign attempts that were where the attacker kind of like it pulled out a little bit more information per key sign failure on per signer, right? And effectively to eventually get what their buy primes are or what their kind of keys were that they were holding. And by having a cold vault that's still maintained by the same node operators, but you don't sign very much. And so there's less opportunity to kind of pull out little bits of information. And that's where like, 90% or 80% of the liquidity would be. And then we'd have a hot wallet with like, 10% liquidity or whatever it is. And that would be signing all the time for like, trades and whatever. But if you steal that, then you steal just like a percentage rather than, so there's a bunch of different ideas that we have around this. And I don't know if we're going to ship that or not. That requires conversation, and that's obviously like doing something like that. It's actually kind of complicated. It's almost like adding back Yggdrasil, if you remember the Yggdrasil days from like way back when. And we got rid of that for a whole host of reasons, but like it's kind of bringing it back without like Yggdrasil was like a one of one, right? So it was just one individual wallet held by one individual validator, and that's where we sent funds from. And then the Asgards were more like a cold vault kind of idea, right? Because most of the transactions would go from the Yggdrasils, right? Because it was just fast, quick signing, all that kind of stuff. But, a one of one is not the most secure thing in the world, as you could probably imagine. And we moved away from that for good reason. So in some ways, it's kind of like bringing it back in a sort of kind of way where you have like, a smaller vault with smaller amounts of funds that you can sign from and send funds from, and then you have a larger, more secure, less signing, less activity to kind of back it up. I don't know. We might do that. We might not. But like all this stuff, we're going to have this kind of deeper conversation probably on Wednesday next week. And you could ask me about them on the podcast on next Thursday as well, if you want to kind of, what was the realizations coming out of that meeting. But in some ways, like the answer to this question doesn't really matter so much in this moment in time, because if we're going to do any of those things, like even taking the 2 of 2 multisig that you were just asking about, we're not going to move to 2 of 2 multisig without moving DKLS first anyway, because we need to get DKLS to actually work before we can do any like 2 of 2 multisig with ECDSA like GT20 and DKLS. So we got to make the movement first to build the technology and the code to support these other, cryptographies. And then after that point, we can say, okay, maybe we want to do another migration to a 2 of 2 multisig, right? Which may or may not be the case, but like, yes, that is something we're going to have to iron out as the developers and the security aspects of this team.
Cool.
Makes sense.
Go for it, Denny.
Okay. Question. This was asked a while ago from Funny. I'm sorry, Funny, but we had to get that stuff out of the way. He says, do you think it is possible to add an API for AI agents to THORChain, for example, the AI payment layer? Also, for example, exchanges of metals and commodities. I don't really see why that couldn't. I'll kick it to you in a second, Chad. I'm a little biased on this because, I believe like this is a little silver right here. I have props at my desk, you guys. That's how I roll.
Yeah, guns, you got explosions.
I'm ready for any topic. I'm ready for anything. You know what I mean?
Are you in your bunker right now? I think you're in your bunker.
Yeah. This background's like a facade. I'm actually 30 meters underground right now, you guys. So it's a screen behind. Yeah. But yeah, I actually don't like, I want to add anything to THORChain that will generate swap volume. I don't care. But with precious metals, I don't know. I just feel like, can you ever be certain that that's not going to be rugged at some point? I mean, you could say the same for stables, I guess. But anyway, I'll kick it to you, Chad. What do you think?
Yeah. So earlier in the conversation, Kenton was talking about Morpheus, and we had a good conversation with our friends over there. And we were kind of just asking some questions about like, what do we need to do as an exchange to get more on the edge of AI agents and this kind of thing? And we got some things some action items to work on. Like X402 payments is one thing we could kind of poke at a little bit. There's another like Ethereum standard. I think it's called 8004, if I remember correctly. There's a handful of things like that, but like having an API for agents, I don't think is really needed. Like having an API, whether it's agents or anything else, is more or less one and the same. Maybe building, another thing we talked about is building like an MCP for THORChain, which I've actually already built like a long time ago, but just never open sourced it for reasons, which I'll just go ahead and open source it, whatever. But yeah, there are some things we can do to make THORChain more compatible with AI agents. And I do like subscribe to the mentality that like in the not too distant future, agents will be 90-something% of the transactions on any particular blockchain will probably be, AI agents operating one form or another. So that is going to be the way of crypto moving forward, or one of the strongest use cases of crypto is going to be AI agents and having methodologies of controlling, money, without requiring literal signatures, hand signatures versus digital signatures. So like, I do think it's something that we do want to spend some time on, and maybe I'll get one of our developers to work on that stuff. Actually, I'll make a note of myself to do that.
So after that call, Chad, the guy gave me a site, like gave us a site to, you can plug in your website to see if it's AI ready, and agentsfirst.dev. If you guys are interested, let me type it in. agentsfirst.dev. I think that, yeah. And I got to show it here. Can you show it, Denny? Did it come through? Oh, here it is.
It's up. It's on. Yep. Agentsfirst.dev.
So I put in THORChain.org. We had a 25. Last I looked at it, now it's a 90, and we should get up to 100. It just takes time for things to update. So THORChain.org should be good. Swap.THORChain.org, we got a 0. And but I should be able to get that to 100. So some of the work is already done, just needs to be implemented. And how quickly the devs are able to get THORChain.org stuff done. Hopefully they can do just as quick on swap.thorchain. So from that point of view, we should be able to get those little things done on the website, on the back end, to make them basically like readable by AI, making it easy for AI to interact with the site. And then Chad, we mentioned you the MCP library or whatever, AI API for AI. I asked Andy with Liquify, and he's already been working on some kind of MCP library for that. So to answer, I forget the guy's name, but yeah, we are already working on that stuff to make THORChain interactive with AI. So I definitely believe that. I believe that very strongly. We need to be on it. We have to. THORChain has to be easily accessible by AI. Oh,
Chad, you muted.
Yeah, for sure it does. Like, it makes me a little bit nervous in some ways about having AI access actual funds and signing transactions on its own without a human approving it or whatever. That makes me nervous. But this is the way of the future. Like that's fairly clear that this is the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. What next, guys? What else? What else should we chat about?
Well, I'll just quickly shout out our stream on X cut out after 16 minutes. Someone just informed me, of course, but it's on YouTube, you guys. So please, if you wouldn't mind sharing the link on YouTube, I just put it on X. It's always a wild card. We never know why that happens. It's dumb.
Stupid Riverside. It's always X, the one platform that we like need or want, and that's the one platform we always have issues on.
Yeah.
Like,
I haven't checked the Facebook feed yet. I'll be curious on there. But yeah, gosh dang it. It's like,
sorry guys, but it's just like, you have no idea how many hours I spent with Riverside trying to like fix our problems with X. So
I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of the reason. Well, one of the reasons why we're here is that X is like unstable. And
yeah, well, you're right.
we got rugged so many times that
Yeah.
people, you know.
This is still better than spaces, because I want to say it was every second space we're getting rugged.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah. So I guess in Riverside's defense, it is Twitter. It is X. Something's wrong with them. Elon cut too much. Put some more money back into your streaming there, buddy. So
Yeah, he ain't like Hammond, like Jurassic Park, where he spares no expense. The expenses were spared. You know what I mean? That's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're right, Chad. This is still way better than spaces. You know, I think we only have an issue with X once every 3 months now. It feels like once every 2 months. So
Yeah. But at
yeah.
least we have the content that's saved, and we can release shorts and stuff on X and get our voice out there. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Elon, figure it out, man.
Yeah.
Well, he fired everybody, so I'm not sure if anybody left.
He fired some people incorrectly, I think, because whoever their engineers are, they literally cannot figure this out. I just like it blows my mind. I
just love the irony of like Elon Musk is a person who has so many jobs, like he runs so many companies, right? And he just fires people. Like the person with the most amount of jobs in the world is just like firing the most amount of people, whether it be like X or like even like the government or whatever. Like it's just like constantly trying to like, you know, kind of everybody else. Meanwhile, he has like 9 jobs himself.
I don't know how he does it.
I don't know how he does it either. I would not be. I would go crazy.
I don't get it.
And having like 16 kids, or whatever how the number of kids he has now, it's like 7 different women, or whatever the hell the number is. Like it just, I don't know.
Neuralink, Tesla, SpaceX, the Boring Company. There's even more companies.
And he's on drugs all the time. Apparently, that's you know.
Well, and apparently he is involved. Like it's not like it's just his name on the company. Like he does get involved in meetings and decisions and everything, right? So like it's obviously bandwidth. He's got to pay attention. Like, yeah, I don't know how he must just have like 1,000 times more RAM than the rest of our brains. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
His ability to delegate, he must have really good delegation, you know.
He must. You have to be. You'd have to be.
Yeah.
Delegation's hard. Like as somebody who's built, you know, something in this world, like delegation is actually really hard to do. It's hard to find, you know, good people. It actually really is hard. It's actually, I've been saying this even before I started THORChain. It's like the hardest part of doing a startup is hiring. Hiring's always the hardest part for me, at least, just to find good talent. And maybe it matters less now because AI can do so much, right? And I'm sure that'll be even more true 5 years from now.
Well, the problem I'm finding is people want to use AI too much, and I'm like, stop using AI. Like I can tell, like it's bad, it sucks, it's not good, and everyone wants to turn their brain off and just outsource their brains to AI. And I'm like, it's good for some things, but not everything.
Yeah.
And or at least it's a tool, right? It doesn't. When we were talking to the David guy from Morpheus, he I think he said it quite well. Like AI is only as strong as the human doing the prompts, right? And so, like, yeah, I've seen some pretty bad work with AI because I think the human doesn't know how to use it properly.
Yeah. But I think that's, to be honest, I think that's a temporary thing. That's an ephemeral concept, just because the direction I think we're going is we're going towards a more of a promptless perspective, where you have agents that are prompting themselves, in a matter of speaking, rather than humans composing something and writing a good prompt. It'll just be responding to an email, responding to a GitHub event of some kind, responding to, you know, some event that happens in the world of the internet or whatever, and then starts acting upon that. And there's no actual prompting really involved for the most part. You know, I think that's going to be a temporary thing that we're always going to prompt. Don't get, like, prompting not going to die necessarily. I'm going to keep on prompting, but like, I think a lot of the AI thinking is going to be promptless versus promptful.
Wow. This is getting crazy.
Dude, dude. You don't even like. It's not even anywhere close to like we're super early days.
Yeah.
You know, Demis put it a really interesting way where he's a founder and CEO of DeepMind on Google, and he's Nobel laureate, by the way, won the Nobel Prize for his AI work. And he said that what we're going through is going to be like the Industrial Revolution, but 10 times larger and 10 times faster. It's just going to be so
It's the speed is
disabling.
what I feel like I can comprehend the size. It's the speed I can't
The speed's
comprehend.
going to be really hard for anybody to comprehend. That like
Yeah.
it's hard to like nobody. I feel like I have a unique insight into it as an engineer because this field of software engineering has been more adoptive of this technology more than any other field. Because like law will be redone in this way, but lawyers are extremely slow to adopting technology. They're really fucking terrible at it, to be honest with you. But engineers like myself who are tech focused, leaning people, like us software engineers in general, like we're quick to adopt, we're quick to innovate, we're quick to to iterate and improve and code ourselves out of a job. We've been doing that for 30 years, right? Coding ourselves out of jobs. You know what I mean? That's what scripting is and automation is and all these like tools we've created ourselves over the years. So it's like we're on a weird edge, we software engineers, that we can see where the world is because we're living, 5 years into the future of versus like, lawyers and doctors and therapists and other careers that will also be revolutionized in this kind of way. But they have no idea what's coming to them.
I have a question on that. Do you think the way is it going? Are we going like with AI models that are like hyper specialized for certain tasks? And I don't know if the right word is concatenation, where you have multiple like specializations and then you have a central hub or do you just think a more generalist AI that can just do pretty much
Yeah,
ubiquitously everything?
it's a good question. So like, the quick answer is like, we don't really know. Right. And we see all sorts of specialist, models out there that are much more efficient in the sense of like the size of the parameters, like how many parameters it has, like, and what it's able to output. Like it's intelligence density, as I like to call it. I don't know if that's the actual phrase for it, but that's the way I like to refer to it as. You get higher intelligence density, which is actually really nice because you have lower compute to get a higher outcome. Right. But it's still not going to be as good as the frontier, like Fable 5, Mythos, whatever the frontier is. And a lot of the more recent advancements in the frontiers, something to call a mixture of experts, which is basically what you can think about having an LLM that's got 300, 400 different LLMs within the LLM. And a mixture of experts will have a router in front of your request and then pick 2 or 3 or 5 or 7 or 9 different little LLMs within this big giant LLM and then use those to produce the outcome of whatever the response is to your request. And by doing it that way, you consume a lot less energy and a lot less inference and a lot more efficient. So you're actually combining a bunch of smaller little LLMs, so to speak. And there's actually a new thing that just came out like 2-3 days ago called Fuga. It's like from Japanese Fugatsu or whatever the hell the name is. And it's doing that, but even on a higher level of like, you request something to this new system, it doesn't even have any LLMs of its own. It just has access to Opus and ChatGPT and open source models and these models. And it just like routes based upon what your request is. Oh, like Opus 4.8 is really good for this response. Oh, ChatGPT 5.5 instant, which just came out today, is actually a really good, solution for this. And so you get like a better, more intelligent, outcome theoretically, because you're going to the best person for the best job in the given moment rather than all your jobs going to one person. So it's really unclear what's going to happen, but and it's like I couldn't tell you what's going to happen in 3 months or 6 months,
Right.
let alone a year from now or 2 years from now. It would be a complete guess right out the crack of my ass. So
Is
like,
it? I'm sorry, Chad. Go ahead.
hey, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, is it like one clear projection we can make is the amount of energy consumption in the whole world is going to go up tremendously, like the demand for energy to run these models, would you say? Because if AI just
Um,
becomes ubiquitous, I mean, you get more efficient models, but I guess it's a ebb and flow there. I don't
it's a little
know.
bit. It's so. Yes and no. So yes, in the sense that like we are using compute like crazy and consuming electricity like crazy, but we're also building much more and more efficient, systems. So like just yesterday, OpenAI just announced something called Jalapeno, which is their own CPU, GPU system that's specifically designed for inference, for just answering questions for LLMs to use. And it doesn't do anything else. The correct term is called an ASIC, right? Or single application computational, whatever that thing is, the acronym stands for. We use ASICs all the time for Bitcoin mining, where you build specific GPUs specifically for mining Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. And now they want to build, and Google has been a part ahead of the game with their TPI and TPU systems. But like that's like a much more energy efficient way of doing the same thing. So you get a lot more performance. So theoretically, you could see, where right now we get 50, 60 tokens per second on the current models. Those kind of advanced, CPUs and GPUs would be getting you closer to like 2,000, 3,000 tokens per second, which is obviously orders of magnitude faster and consuming a lot less energy to produce the same outcome. So you have like both things happening, as in the demand for AI is going to vastly increase over the next few years. That's for shit, sure. So the demand on electricity is going to increase, but at the same time, we are building more efficient and more powerful, hardware that consumes less electricity. How are those two things going to rectify? And one's positive and one's negative, and what is that? Is it net high or net low? Probably that's going to be high. But at the same time, like other people don't know this, but like there's a direct correlation between how much energy that you consume as an individual and the quality of life that you live. So oftentimes when people see like big electricity bills, or especially a lot of like the green people in the world who are all like, anti-climate change and all this stuff, like they get very upset about us consuming electricity. I'm actually quite the opposite. Like when I see us consuming, and not like burning electricity, not like just, running AC in a house that's nobody lives in, right? That would just be burning electricity. But like when we start to find actual use cases to burn electricity in a positive way that's beneficial to society, I'm just like, yeah, fucking burn, baby, fucking burn. Because I instinctively know that like the more electricity that we consume as a culture or as a society, just means the quality of life that everybody's going to have is inherently going to increase proportionally to the amount of electricity that we consume. So I'm always like, yes, let's burn more electricity. Like, let's also find more efficient ways, right? Cold fusion, for example, has been worked on for 60 plus years, and maybe AI will help us to solve it. But 7 grams of deuterium, which is the source for cold fusion, 7 grams would power the entire city of like Denver for an entire month, which is like basically at that point is an infinite quantity of energy that is basically close to free as you can reasonably get. And so these major breakthroughs that are going to be happening into the future, same thing with like room temperature semiconductors, these milestones and technological like kind of advancements would be absolute game changers. Who the hell cares about consuming electricity if it's basically free and infinite, right? We only care about it because it emits CO2 in the atmosphere and it causes our planet to warm and ice caps to melt and species to go extinct and crops to die early and all sorts of stuff. But like we can, I don't want to say easily because it's not easy, but we can use this technology to actually advance us in ways to make all these problems we talked about today null and void.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
did you
scratching
want to
the
add to something,
surface.
Kenton?
Oh no, I totally agree. We're totally scratching the surface on the energy potential of this planet, let alone the solar system.
Yeah.
Like we're
we're nowhere even
minuscule.
close. Like,
It's
it's minuscule.
minuscule. Like, yeah.
The amount of electricity that we produced from like solar panels, for example, relative to the amount of energy that hits the panel, it only really consumes like a few percentage points out of like it's tiny. It's tiny. And so major improvements to how efficient our panels are could dramatically change how much energy we can produce from them. And all that energy is free, by the way, and doesn't really emit any significant amount of CO2.
Well, it's space. I think space is the future for solar power. So just imagine a solar power farm in space. Like,
Yes.
it'd be,
It's fascinating. I've heard that this is, I don't know how practical it is and you know, beam it down and, I don't know. It sounds amazing. But yes.
this is what's interesting. This was exciting. It's like what's science fiction today is standard tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but it's even what exists today, even just regular nuclear reactors, we could easily 100x the Earth's output of electrical supply.
Yep.
So yeah, no, it's
Have
yeah.
you ever heard of a Dyson sphere? Do you know what that is?
Yes, I
Yes,
have.
that surrounds the whole the planet and the sun, or just the
Star.
whole
Or
planet?
just a star.
Just a star. Okay.
To be honest, I think we would never be able to build a Dyson sphere because we don't have enough material, raw material.
Yeah.
The sun's fucking large. So
yeah.
you might be able to do like a ring around it, you know what I mean? Effectively. And then you just blast huge amounts of energy. But like it's a very theoretical technology that would never produce, even 1,000 years from now. I sincerely doubt we'd be able to produce it, but it's a really fascinating concept.
Don't worry, Danny. There'll be enough power for your AI to change file names for you.
Thank you. Boomers like me need that a lot, you guys.
Yeah.
I love this conversation. I mean, we're gonna have philosophical conversation because it's really fun. I mean, this is a good thing here. That's the one thing that there's so many like second, third, and fourth tier effects. Like what I think of THORChain. I don't like to make THORChain about everything, but this is what I think. There's one, I forget what it is. It's the I forget the word, but when you look into the stars and we listen, we don't hear anything, right? This is a contradiction. Like why don't we hear anything? And for me, it really comes down to like, I really believe that intelligent life is extremely, extremely rare. And if there's intelligent life that's been developed in galaxies, it's very easy for that intelligent life to destroy itself. I mean, we're seeing it right now where we have such incredible, powerful like weapons when it comes to like these nuclear weapons or whatever else we developed. The threshold to destroy yourself gets easier and easier the more advanced you get, right? And so one thing that with THORChain, I really believe is that we have to fix the money in order to solve the problems that we have in society. We have to deleverage the government or many hostile tyrannical organizations. And a lot of these are enterprises that are becoming involved in politics. We have to fix humanity in a way where we have this vision where we go out, because when you look at ourselves, guys, as humans, I'm going from memory. I believe Earth's first life happened about 4 billion years ago, maybe 3.8 billion years ago. And to get where we're at today, think about that for a second. We had to have a single unbroken chain of life that was 3.8 billion years through all the natural, Darwinian evolution by natural selection to get where we are basically able to have a conversation and think abstractly and make technology get here. That is a long time for an event not to happen to the Earth where it destroyed all life. I mean, what an incredible timescale. So what we are is extremely precious and we're extremely rare. I believe life is probably ubiquitous all over the universe because we've already demonstrated in labs that you can make like things like amino acids with pretty simple chemistry, but complex life where you can emit radio signals and do all this stuff is super rare. So I think we might be the first ones in our own galaxy to reach this. My opinion is I don't think there's a lot of intelligent life out there. So I think it's so important, such an obligation to really do everything we possibly can on an individual level to push things in a manner where we don't destroy ourselves. I really think that's so possible. So for me, THORChain represents just the fixing the world in a way where we can advance and these outlandish ideas that we're talking about that just seem so scientific, they can become a reality, but you have to fix the world first. And that's what I believe we're doing here. Hopefully that's not too out there for me, but I that's how I think of it. I really do.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
I kind of agree and I don't agree at the same time. I think it's funny because within the context of our own planet, life arose almost as quickly as it was possible to arise. Like it came very quickly. And we just learned this recently, like 6 months ago, that when we took some samples from an asteroid, that like it had every part that makes DNA on that asteroid. And that asteroid's been, circling around since the creation of our solar system about 4.8-ish billion years ago or so. And so like, but at the same time, as life arose so quickly here, even though it took millions of years, it's still like relative to what was possible. We look out into the universe and we see, in our own galaxy, we have about 400 billion stars, 400 billion solar systems. How many galaxies are? About 2 trillion that we're aware of from our observable universe, probably much larger than that in reality, but light only travels so fast so far, so which is what we call the observable universe. So you got 2 trillion galaxies, each approximately 400 billion stars. You multiply that number out. The number is so astronomically large that even if what we are is rare, and there's not much about our situation that is actually rare. Like, the chemicals that make our DNA and our bodies are the most abundant resources there are in the entire universe. Life, came out of nowhere very quickly when it was possible. We had the Cambrian explosion a few million years ago. That was an explosion of life beyond than just simple microbial life. And we have so many things, like even just like, we have Jupiter. Like, Jupiter plays a very important role to the survival of this planet because it becomes a giant bodyguard from asteroid strikes. We've had a lot less, but even with Jupiter, we've had 7 different occurrences of mass extinction events in our history of this planet, where the vast majority of life was 90-something% was extinguished, and yet it comes back. It's so resilient across massive events that would destroy so much, and yet it comes back. And here we are, humans walking around, bipedal things with brains and very dense brains that have a lot of wrinkles versus very smooth brains. And like, this very fascinating concept. But like, and when we look out into the sky, look at all the other solar systems, we see such a wild arrangement of planets. We've seen planets where it rains rocks and shards of glass at Mach 2 or Mach 3 on some of these planets. It's just like the craziness of what we've observed from the atmospheres, from the dimming of light passing by their atmospheres, is so crazy. So even if you're right and you say that we are rare, we probably are rare. I don't think life is rare. I think maybe intelligent life is rare.
Yes.
But even if it was rare, there would still be like 1 trillion intelligent species in our observable universe. Like, that would be the most logical thing from my perspective,
Yeah, there's definitely more because it's so big. I mean, 2 trillion galaxies with hundreds of billions of stars each. And I think right now, if you use the Drake equation, I think literally every star has planets around it just because how stars form.
Yeah,
I think that's
on average between 7 and 9 planets from what we've understood from Keplr, right, and others. But yes, it's very common. And actually, it's actually almost has to happen because of how planets form, and you have these stellar nurseries. Like, if you look kind of between the knees of Orion right now, that's a stellar nursery, right? And there's hundreds and thousands of stars that are being born from gases, just collecting together and spiraling, and then the gas creates the sun, and then the planets around it as well, which start take up some of that gas and build over time. Like, that's the standard process of how planets and stars are created. It's common for there to be 7 or 9 planets per solar system from what we've observed so far.
The one thing I'm curious about is because the big hiccup for us is when life started about 3.8 billion years ago, or whatever it is, we didn't get multicellular life until about 3 billion-ish years later, 800 million years. So there is a gap between the single cell to multicellular. And I wonder if we just got really unlucky with that time scale. And it could have happened like 500 million years, when life was first, or, you see what I'm saying? So I wonder what the leap really is. If maybe we got super, super lucky and the chances of it happening in 100 billion years is like almost nil. Like, I'm so curious about that. I don't know, because that was the big leap. When we got multicellular, then you had, you had fungi, and you had the simple organisms, Precambrian explosion, all the way up until mammals. Here we are. I mean, so interesting. This is such a nerdy podcast, you guys.
I'm
This is how we are.
How long did it take to go from single to complicated life, I guess?
I'm going on memory, guys. So if Chad corrects me in line,
I don't know if I don't think it was that long.
I think it took billions, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong.
Well, the Earth itself is, I think, 4.8 billion. First complex life was 2.1 to 1.8 billion years ago. This is a ChatGPT response, by the way, so take it with whatever you want to do. Single-celled was 3.5 to 3.8 billion years ago. So it's about $1 billion difference approximately between single life to what I guess how we define complex life. In this, they're talking about the great oxidization event dramatically increased atmospheric oxygen. So that's talking about like in the early days of the Earth, it was just like a molten rock. Like it was just, it was fairly soft in some sense. And then you had, a Mars-like asteroid hit it that created like the moon and created like all that kind of, it just kind of blew up the planet for a while. But the oxidization didn't happen for another 1 billion years after that. And back in that time period, when you had more complex life, not so much 2.5 billion years ago, but a little later on, when you had a high oxidization ratio in the atmosphere, you had massive bugs. You had like millipedes the size of crocs, and you had like mosquitoes the size of like a basketball because the oxidation of the atmosphere was like 70-80%. Versus today, I think it's closer to like 30% or 20%, something like this. So like the life was itself structurally different because the amount of oxygen in the atmosphere at that relative time. I don't know. This stuff is just like fascinating as all hell to me. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, it is fascinating. And when oxygen happened, it was actually, from what we understand, it was actually toxic to the life, right? And so there was actually a big, it was a big die-off, and then the life that utilized obviously flourished because it's such a it's
because you had this explosion of like what we now call plant life, right? And plant lives are just creating oxygen. And so like they just started consuming everything and like overrunning the planet with these oxygen creating entities, right? Of plants, which then the life had to, it had to readjust, right? To things that breathed, maybe oxygen in a sense that it wasn't as relevant or as prevalent before. I don't know. It's a very fascinating topic, to be honest.
Took lots of billions of years, and we finally got to a handsome man named Kenton with his white collared shirt, all about Rune, buddy. So you're a miracle, Kenton.
Fungi has more in common genetically with animals. Like we're more in common animals have more in common genetics wise as fungi than fungi and plants.
That's true. Yes.
Like animals are more related to fungi than plants.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah. It's super neat. Well, maybe I know how we can bring this all back to THORChain. So we're talking about energy consumption.
We lost half our audience already.
Yeah, a lot of people, they kind of view the world kind of more linearly, or like there's no way we could have. The problem with energy production and consumption today is it isn't allocated in a free market. It's allocated in a controlled market, and so that whole narrative, like fix the money, fix the world, is part of that is allocating resources efficiently and following a free market. And the best way to allocate resources is through simple supply demand, the free market price. So just bringing it back to you, Danny, and THORChain is part of fixing the monetary system, getting us to a free market pricing of everything, all goods and services, especially energy. And if we have a free market pricing of energy, it can grow properly, and we can get to these scales, energy scales, to consume energy on massive scales. The market will have to be able to respond. The market price will have to be able to respond appropriately, right? So, this getting us to a free market in money will get us closer to a free market in the price of energy. So, and food, housing, clothes, everything, right? The sooner we can get all that into free markets, the sooner the abundance will come. So, this is for me what gets me excited about THORChain too, Denny, is not that it's a THORChain by itself. We're a cog in this machine with Monero and Bitcoin and everything else that matters.
Mm-hmm.
We're playing our part, right? And a very, very important one, I think. So it's exciting.
Yeah. As Paul from Edge Wallet says, we all have a similar vision and goal, but we're all meeting in the middle, and I really love that. And a little shout out to the Quai boys. I think they're onto something, basing their blockchain on energy consumption and having something to flat coin. So I mean, I really like what's happening. I'm getting more and more bullish as time goes on. And when XMR goes live, woo, baby, I am so unbelievably excited to see what's going to happen. I think it's just going to be next level on social media. I am so ready for it. I think
people are going to blow up. That's definitely, it's to be a big moment, I think, not just for us, but for the industry as a whole.
For the industry as a whole. Yeah.
And to let you guys know, marketing wise, I kind of want to give it at least a good month, that everything's working.
Yeah.
Right. I don't
let
want
it
to put
bake.
any money or resources in. Just like you said, Denny, when it goes live, be patient, take your time. I'm going to have the same approach with promoting it. Like if you guys individuals want to go talk about it, get out there, great. But I don't want to put any real resources to getting the story out there until it's working. We know it's good. Everything's fine. We can handle $100,000 swaps type deal. So maybe it's a good segue to my favorite topic. That is now the time. Can we start get the POL percentage going to POL? Should we start debating this in Discord? Should we bring up the conversation, get the nodes involved? We got to get this vote going.
Yeah.
I know you got I see in Thornode, you guys doing some housekeeping on stuff. So maybe you still want to get these other things taken care of first.
Yeah. We have, it comes down to like a matter of, and you guys can inform me about this because I genuinely, I'm not sure what to do here because right now we have, I think 5 ADRs that are pending, and that's not including the POL. I guess it would be another, technically not an ADR. It's just going to be a vote, in a manner of speaking, but it's just a matter of just like getting nodes to churn through the governance process. You know what I mean? I have to do, when it comes to the POL thing, I have to do some research on the code base because I'm not entirely sure how this would actually work in the context of like, there is a mechanism in the code base to, for operational Mimirs to clear on every churn, to clear any previous votes. And that's there for a decent reason, but I'm not sure structurally how that works within the context of this use case of using operational Mimirs for the system income. And so I had to do some looking into the code to understand, like, if 20 nodes vote, tomorrow to turn on, system, some of the system income going to the POL, what happens after the churn? Does it turn off? Does it stay on, but then all the nodes got vote cleared, so just 3 nodes need to vote to change it from whatever it was before to whatever it is now, because the 20 votes that voted last 2 days ago were cleared, and so they're no longer counting anymore. I have to look into the code base to understand what the actual behavior is on this.
Was the POL percentage an economic Mimir? Or sorry, an operational Mimir?
I believe
it should be an economic Mimir.
I believe it's an operational Mimir. Economic, I would not want to do in this case because an economic would require everybody to align what the value is. Operational Mimir works a little bit better conceptually for this case because, Kenton might think it should be 20%, and Denny thinks it's going to be 30%, and I'm going to think it's 15%. And then people have different kind of numbers they like to settle on. And then if you have the economic Mimir, then then nobody wins, right? Because the vote just gets so diluted in percentages that we never actually get to send a 2/3 majority consensus on whatever it should be. Versus an operational Mimir would mean that 5 people voted for 5%, 10 voted for 10%, and 20 voted for 20%. 20 wins, right? 20 is the numbers until 20 more people join the 10%, vote, and then 10% becomes the new number. Do you know what I mean? It's a question about how do we reach consensus in a system where there's an arbitrary number, not arbitrary, but of different values we could. Because most ADRs are just do we want this feature or we do not want this feature, right? Not really controlling the feature itself. Just hey, do we want to have a dynamic fee model, right? And it's a Boolean yes or a no. That's the vast majority of ADRs. They don't generally set the actual configuration of what the value is, historically speaking. And we use operational Mimirs to set the values of things,
Could you just scale it down to the lowest value? So for example, if someone wanted 20%, so there's a 5, 10, 15, 20%, and we don't have consensus, but if someone's voting for 20%, they're obviously fine with 5%, right? So the lowest value, you could aggregate all the votes, and say that is, and then you step it up as you reach consensus on a higher number, or maybe that doesn't work. I don't know.
I mean, it can work in some circumstances, but it doesn't work in others. So if we're going to vote on something, for example, that would be like the vote we just had for ADR, I think 28 of Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D, right? If you vote for A, it doesn't mean that you also like B, C, and D because A is a bigger number than B, C, and D. But it might make sense in this particular case of like if you vote for 20, but you're probably okay with 15, right? We can maybe make an assumption about that. So it just depends on a per, ADR or voting scenario. So my intention was always just to like just let the largest vote, and if you're for 20 and you're the only person voting for 20, and there's a tie between 10 and 15, then just change your vote from a 20 to a 15, right? And just kind of let people vote and a wide answers to begin with, and then people start changing their votes to kind of coalesce around a figure or two that eventually gets to some sort of consensus.
That makes sense. So I got to ask you guys, what do you think the percentage should be for POL? And I've been thinking about this. Kenton, Chad, I want to be super aggressive. I want to go aggressive, but I think a compelling thing that I've thought about is I don't want to go so aggressive. And I don't know if this is right. Maybe you can add insight to this, Kenton, because you help with the node. I don't want to go so far where a new node operator coming in running a single node is not profitable, because then you could, in that case, you could make the argument that it's a slightly centralizing because there can't be new entrants because it's economically, they're losing money, right? So do you think we're okay at 30% or 29%, or what do you guys think?
Well, actually, first off, you reminded me of something. I have to apologize to Boone because he was right. I was doing my math on this. I got my math wrong last time we were talking about this. Right now, 75% of system fees goes to nodes and pools, and the pendulum is slammed against nodes. So I mean, 75% of fees going to nodes. If we do 50% to nodes, 25% to POL, that's a 33% drop in fees to nodes. The node operator would have to increase their fee by 50% to offset that, to get back to even, right? And so a new node operator should just increase their operator fee by 50%. And same with any existing operators. And I think that's just something operators have to talk to their BPs about. And BPs have to be understanding because there's fixed costs in these things, guys. And I don't know if you noticed, we're in a bear market. Things aren't going so well. THORChain's fees are down. The room price is down. Like everything is down. And but the real world costs for node operators aren't. And so, if you guys want if you love your node operator and you want them to keep going and put food on the table and, continue to pay, support, have bare metal equipment and all that good stuff, redundancies, whatever their setup is, it costs money. And same with paying attention in Discord, being involved in governance. Maybe this is a reason, Chad, we've got such a backlog in nodes voting is like, no one's making any money. So everyone's kind of checked out. They have to take other jobs. They're focusing on their real income source right now. So, if BPs are expecting node operators to charge less and less, you're gonna get less and less out of governance, right? Out of the people who are responsible for helping add value to the Rune token. So, yeah, I think just node operators and BPs have to have that conversation and should be okay with nodes going up. If they have to increase their fees to cover costs, so be it. Hey, Boone.
What's going on,
Howdy.
brother? Hey, I saw your I just saw your message, Boone. So go ahead, tell me what you just said.
Well, yeah, that's the main reason. So, Chad, in the code base, unless I'm quite wrong, the PLL is currently set as an economic, not operational Mimir. So we might need to patch that.
I thought it was. I thought I looked this before. I'll look into it though.
Yeah. And then
I think I specifically changed it to a operator like 2 months ago. Thought so.
I made a node vote tracker dashboard, and it's showing it as economic. So there's currently 12 votes trying to set it to 1% currently. I think that's the only votes there, and so because it hasn't hit 2/3 is not activated.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for
And
pointing that out, Boone. Go ahead, Boone.
Yeah, and then
Sorry.
I just wanted to kind of also add on to what you guys were talking about, like increasing the bond, like the fee that node operators charge their bond providers, and yeah, I mean, I think for the short medium term, that's probably the move. We've kind of moved away from economic security, and so it's not the hugest deal if we lose a little bit of bond providers, but I honestly don't think we would too many if yield went down for a little while. And I really think, especially after this hack, that getting liquidity back into the pools is like a really, really huge priority. And like, why can't we all come together and make that happen?
Yeah, I want to be super aggressive right now with Rune being so relatively cheap in price. I want to put as much Rune in the pools as I possibly can with POL. Like that's just, I'm gunning for that, right?
Yeah.
Because the long-term effects are just so powerful. We're going to be sucking in so much exhaustion capital, assuming Rune increases in market cap relative to the assets that it's paired with. Man, if we get a lot of Rune in there, we could cover that 10.7 deficit or whatever it is. If I misremember what the number was, probably really quickly. Hopefully, really quickly. So,
And
I'm like, let's go.
We need liquidity. We're all excited about Monero. We all see the potential. Like it could easily rival our Bitcoin pool. Like we could have 10, 20 million, 30 million in Monero pool, consistently print fees. Where is that liquidity going to come from? So this is the one hang up we face right after the hack. How are we going to get people to trust THORChain to deposit liquidity? Like the yield's going to have to be so high for people to just take on the risk, right? And so all that's going to happen is we're going to have this high yield going to LPs, but no new liquidity coming in. So yeah, in my mind, it's just we should just own protocol and the liquidity, and instead of because so if we do regular LPing, the fees will be split pro rata amongst all the pools, right? If we do POL, the POL is going to be targeted into specific pools. So instead of the yield being split between LPs and all the different pools, all of that yield, all those fees could go straight into the Monero pool for a few weeks or even a couple months. And we could get that sucker up to a few million pretty quick, right? So, I think that will have way bigger, more benefit for us in the short term and the long term. Because without it, where are we going to get this several million of liquidity in a Monero pool? It's going to be really hard to sell right after our liquidity was just hacked. So unless you guys think I'm wrong, unless you have maybe do you think it'd be easy, but I
love POL. I love POL. I say go for it. I'm just curious what you guys think the percentage should be. What we should set it as to start.
I'm happy with 25. Then that keeps everything else the same. That puts us in balance, 50% going to nodes. I know in the ADR it was talked about reducing the burn and putting some of that towards POL. I don't want to, the burn bros. I don't want to alienate them. I actually have a foot in their camp. So I'm happy to keep 5% burn. I'm happy to reduce it down to 1% and have the other 4% go towards POL. So we do 29% POL, 1% burn. Those would be my two votes, I guess.
Chad, you shared a link in public chat. Is that the Mimir, or I'm sorry?
It's a specific commit that I made to make it operational. So if it is not operational, then somebody had reverted that change at some point in time in the last couple months. So I don't know.
Interesting.
Where or who had done that.
The Dinosaurus?
Oh yeah, that freaking guy or gal. Very interesting. For the reminder, you guys, that cryptography attack against us, It was, from what we know, it's not AI. We spoon-fed the exact attack vector to various AI models, and it could not duplicate it. So this was a very advanced cryptographer that was gunning for THORChain. Interesting, very eye-opening, honestly. But yeah, we'll move on.
What do you think, Denny? What percentage you want to go to POL?
29%. 1% burn. I want to go all in. I want to put as much as I can in there. Because it's a burn, right? I like to, like Boone makes this point often. It is a burn. So the burn people do get what they get.
Yeah, and I actually just thought of something else I wanted to bring up is for the burn bros, we just burnt. What did we just burn 4 or 5 million rune from the attack, right? So that's like the actual burn mechanism is only what 1.8 million rune we've burned since it started. So there you go. We've burned another 2 or 3 years worth of rune just from I'm sorry guys, I'm like tripping over my words. Maybe one of you can say it better than me, but because of after the exploit, that 10.7 million that was stolen, that was of like Bitcoin, Ethereum, other L1 tokens. Mm-hmm. The rune paired with that was left behind. So that was about 4 or 5 million of rune tokens that we have extra, and that was part of the update. Was just burning those tokens. So we have reduced the rune token supply. Do you know the actual number, Boone?
I don't.
4 or 5 million is around. Maybe it's even 6. I can't.
So we're below that 360 now, firmly. Because I know
355.
Yeah.
So anyone who's like really gung ho about the burn and wants to keep it, we just burned a whole bunch of tokens for you. So you should be okay with reducing the percentage going to the burn. Me personally would like to keep it at least at 1. That I don't have to go. It creates a small nightmare for me changing everything. At least we can still say we're deflationary and I just change the 5 to the 1, leave everything else the same.
There's something mythologically correct about setting it to, I think the initial was 5 bips, if I remember correctly. And so to returning it to where it started, there's something fitting about that. But I mean, 1% is also fine. But I made this, I forget where I made this argument, but like I'm firmly convinced that the burn doesn't actually prevent any selling. It just, like, instead of nodes being able to sell, it allows rune holders being able to sell. I really don't think it prevents any selling, whereas POL actually does prevent selling. Like the rune that's held in the pool, it is dynamic, but there's some amount that will never be sold. So I actually think it's more of what they want than the burn itself is. So.
Well, I thought the point of the burn is more about convincing people to buy rather than to sell.
Right, but if you're gonna make, it's a nonsensical argument, but if you want to make like the strongest case of that argument, the POL is actually that argument, but stronger, because it actually is rune that will never get sold instead of the burn, which is just pretending to never be sold.
Why is the rune pretending never to be sold? I mean, it is burnt, so it can't be sold.
Well, because, we could go down a rabbit hole here, but like in my thinking, like, so if a stock buyback, right? It's the buying, and then like that's what matters. And so the buying is separate from the burn. The buy happens no matter what, right? That happens when we collect the liquidity fees. And then the 5% that's currently being burned, that's 5% of rune that would be going to node operators. And so then they could sell that 5%. And that's what the people don't want. They don't want the node operators dumping on holders, right? But the value of that 5% has already been transferred into the rune market cap. Like that was the buy part. And so the rune market cap has already gone up. And so destroying that rune just means that the node operators can't dump on rune holders, but that value is already captured. And so then like rune holders could dump on other rune holders or on the node operators. So like the the value in and out of the black box of Rune, the burn doesn't impact that. It's like if you draw the box around the Rune market cap, the burn is meaningless and doesn't actually do that. And so the POL actually takes that and like it will not be sold instead of giving it to Rune holders who could sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, I'm for POL. I'm for POL. I hope I don't want to abuse my station. I try to be impartial, but I do have an opinion at the end of the day. And I'm curious why people may want to not do the POL. Like to your point, Kenton, I know there's the burn bros. I don't hope that's not derogatory. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't mean to be
POL.
derogatory.
I'm a POL bro. Okay, let me just say. Yeah. So I understand that maybe there is 1%. It's worth to have that narrative. My brain's not good at that, quantifying a narrative like that in a market sense. I've never been good at that. The market's irrational, and I'm not good at that kind of stuff. But so I'm willing to say the 1%, but I really just want to kick that POL, crank it like a madman. As much as I can.
I keep trying to find ways how it's bad for us. I'm like, I can't.
Well, the bearish mentality about POL is that if I am a node operator, I am giving up I'm basically donating 10% of my income that I am not getting, and I'm giving it to the protocol in the hopes that it produces deeper pools, which produces more fees, which produces a greater fee for my collection. Because if I'm going to net lose from the situation,
wouldn't you be giving that to LPs?
Well, wait a second.
No.
Node operator or bond provider?
Either or.
Well, no, because you could be a node operator, not own any Rune, and you would have that mentality.
Yeah, whatever the mentality is, but I'm saying as a person who you might lose money in the whole scenario.
But as a bond provider, what you're foregoing on that yield, you're adding value to your Rune token, your Rune investment, right? But adding liquidity. Like the THORChain protocol.
But that's part of that's what you have to calculate as a bond, let's say bond provider, because you're giving up some percentage of your yield that you would be getting into your pocket today.
Yeah.
And instead you're giving it to the protocol, and you're hoping the protocol will pay you back more than you gave it.
Yeah.
Right. In effect,
Right,
that's the state.
But it's a simple business. So you think of THORChain as a capital intensive business, if you will. Like if you have a business where you need to like invest in your factory, in vehicles. Okay, let's like a vehicle example. Let's just say you got a tow truck, and you take all the money out of that business, and you never do oil changes, you never get new tires, you never fix anything. That truck is just going to be driven into the ground, and your business is going to go to your yield, your income is going to go to zero. A good businessman running that tow truck business knows I got to take some of this capital, some of this money, get new tires, do oil changes, do some preventative maintenance, fix things to keep my income going forever. And so, God, I hope bond providers are smart enough to understand that if you suck all the money out of a business, it is going to go to zero very quick. Like you have to reinvest. Mm-hmm. And this is reinvesting. And you do own it because by the protocol owning it, bond providers are in control because it knows they're in control of what it. I think this is actually, again, I'm selling myself in POL again because if the yield goes to LPs, that's a third party who can withdraw their position whenever they want and take that money away. This is a way for BPs to continue to have exposure to that yield. It's just indirectly through the Rune price.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Like, maybe I'm not. I thought this was kind of consensus, but I thought POL was kind of like instead of paying LP rewards. Like, there's two possible ways to get liquidity into the pools. You either incentivize third-party liquidity, and that's LP rewards, and the bull case for that is you'll get deeper liquidity faster, right? Because people are going to deposit, and so you're instead of putting in a little bit every day, you're going to get a lot of it up front, but then you're renting that liquidity, and the money you pay doesn't ever compound, right? And then the alternative is the POL, where you don't get that big influx because you're not renting it, but you will keep it, and it's never going to go anywhere, and it will earn money over time. And so it's renting versus owning is how I've kind of been like phrasing it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's, I think, and to me, just long term, it'll compound and make sense.
Yeah.
And so you give up that short term boost for the long term, gains. And I think it's smarter.
And it's another way too, like as a Rune investor, you can look at THORChain, like look at THORChain's TVL. Oh, there's 100 million TVL, 50 million of that is Bitcoin, whatever. As a Rune investor, in a way, you have exposure to that because the protocol owns all that crypto, not third parties. So
And
like,
there's just real quick, like the other really nice thing about owning liquidity instead of renting it is, like, from an accounting perspective, it's an asset instead of a liability, right? And so if it gets hacked, we have to make users whole. But if it's our own money and it gets hacked, you don't have to. And especially, like I was kind of pushing this for the Monero pool once it goes live, like, there could be bug, it could get drained. The Monero vault could get drained, and if we have users' funds in there, that's sucks and it's a big problem. But if it's POL, that's not such a big problem. It's kind of like a live bug bounty, not a big deal. And so I think that is under weighted is the fact that POL is an asset and LP is a liability as far as the protocol is concerned. And so I really like that it's an asset.
and in theory too, if you go down that route thinking, Boone, let's say we get to 100% POL, TCY is at $1, everyone, I guess TCY is paid off. Maybe that's a throw ointment in my idea. But where I was going with this is, let's say the pools are huge. There's $1 billion in them. It's all POL. In theory, well, maybe I don't want to say this out loud.
Well, I mean, in my thinking, if the pools get deep enough, eventually you can just turn off POL and have it all bond rewards. Like at some point, there's diminishing returns, and you don't need more liquidity going into the pools.
Well, where I was going with this is, like, imagine a business trading below book value. You could buy that business, and then sell it off in pieces, and you make a profit, right? And
yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm just wondering, if we get to a point where we've relaxed the hard cap, the pools get huge relative to
The income.
the Rune that's bonded on nodes.
Right.
The BPs and nodes could vote to say, let's wind up THORChain and just take all the crypto out of the pools. But it's not stealing because they already own it. They're already owned by the protocol. It is the bond providers' crypto because it's protocol owned.
You might be failing to account for the fact that the value proposition of Rune would change in that position, where right now I've been arguing that the primary value of Rune is the claim on THORChain's current and future income, right? It's primarily, like, that's the main value proposition of Rune as I understand it. But in this future you're proposing, that wouldn't be the only value. It would also be a claim on owning all of those assets in the pools. And so that would be calculated, the market would wrap that into the Rune price. And so the Rune price would be that much higher. The bond might be that much higher for that reason.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if my scenario plays out, but it's just, yeah.
Well, I don't mean to.
Sorry, Denny?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to change the conversation. Do you guys like my hat? Because it just came in the mail right now.
Oh, nice.
And I think I just committed a environmental war crime. I didn't realize how much confetti was on me because I shot 2 of those suckers, and I opened my door and it's like, I was like, what the fuck? I didn't even know what it was at first. It scared myself, right? So I got a big mess outside I got to clean. But yeah, look
Nice,
at
nice.
it's actually the right way. It's just inverted on the camera. So Coke, maybe you could do some editing magic and make it look correct. But
It does look correct.
it doesn't look correct. Okay, good. I thought it looked
It's
inverted.
it's the way it normally looks, yeah. But it's
okay.
it should
Yeah.
the fact that you're facing us means it's wrong, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, but
Another thing with POL that I keep using it to pitch L1s or projects to list on THORChain, and I think it resonates with people. No one's poked holes in it. It seems like actually a good selling feature. So the way I pitch these new protocols to get listed on THORChain is that, okay, they're not going to get any yield for their LP position. They're just going to experience impermanent loss. But the protocol will add liquidity, will become a liquidity provider in their pool. And so over time, the protocol, in theory, will become a much larger liquidity provider than the project themselves. And then they can withdraw their liquidity if they want. So they own it the whole time. They have control. We're not dumping on them. It's just following the price of their tokens, following the XY curve. It's totally fair and above board. Because all these other market makers, all these other exchanges, what they ask for is like a deposit or a listing fee or whatever they call it. And it's anywhere from like 30, 50, 100 grand. You know, Binance, what do they want? A few percent of your token supply or whatever. All they do is sell. They get that, build your tokens, and it's just constant selling. Whereas with THORChain, it's not. It's sitting in the pool. The only real loss that the project will experience is impermanent loss, which only occurs when they actually withdraw, right? So let's just guarantee, say they're going to have some impermanent loss at some point. That loss, that's their real cost. That's the real hard dollar cost of providing liquidity on THORChain. And that could be well worth it for them. So like I tell these guys, like $50,000 should be good enough. Well, if they already have their token, they've already got a stash of tokens. That's basically free. Let's get 25 grand worth of those. Then they have to come up with 25 grand worth of Rune. That's 25 grand of buy pressure on Rune right there. Benefit to us. They put that in the pool. Hopefully it's there for a few years. They go to withdraw. I mean, maybe there's 50% impermanent loss. Maybe there's 80. But like their max loss is 50 grand, which I'd be shocked if the IL is that bad.
It wouldn't be. And then I think you've been missing out on a really nice selling point where the POL is buying and burning their token indefinitely.
Exactly. Actually, you're right, dude. I got to add that. You're right, Boone. I got to make that.
Yeah, I've heard you make this pitch to on the last couple Saturdays, and I'm like, you got to add this last piece. It's like you can withdraw your LP, but we're gonna keep buying and burning your community's token indefinitely.
Yeah. And this is the thing with sales guys. I understand technically, POL might not go to their pool if the yield isn't high enough. But we have to sell the upside, right? Sell the blue sky. If your pool is active, your community is active and it's trading, POL is going to go there. And again, it's not an arbitrary political thing. It's going to follow the code, right? It's all open source. It's all egalitarian. And so yeah, I think these protocols they like the idea, the concept. So this makes us a partner with these projects and not predatory. And so it just increases the reasons why they should list on THORChain.
Love it. I love it. Guys, we're coming up on 2 hours. Great conversation, you guys. I've just absolutely loved this conversation because we're back. THORChain is back alive. It's swapping. Woo, that was a long month. I was getting itchy, you guys. I think I'm addicted to seeing swap volume happen in real time. You know what I mean? So it just feels so good.
I was addicted to good news, to the momentum.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It was hard. We had so many things in the pipe. Work never stopped, right? I mean, Boone, I know you've said this a few times, not on stream, but Monero testing never stopped. A lot of testing didn't stop for a lot of things. And so the mission goes on, you guys. I know we're coming at 2 hours, and Chad, I always try to be respectful of your time. I always love having you give us 2 hours. We don't deserve it, honestly. But is there anything else that we need to talk about? Anything else you want to mention before maybe
small thing? Like I can just throw this out there. We don't have to get into it. But I brought this up a couple weeks ago, and I think I'm gonna propose it more formally, at least as gauge community feedback, because I think people largely are supportive of it. But having a per asset minBPS, and particularly in mind for the XMR pool, I think though we should charge more than what we are currently, but not across the board. And so I want to throw that out there, and I would probably put it at like 50 bips is what I would to start with for XMR. So
okay, put that one in the
Chad's dynamic fee does.
Well, but his dynamic fees only impact L1 swaps with an affiliate code, so it won't impact trade or secured assets. And so, I don't know, like just on the face of it, L1 swaps with an affiliate fee is only 33% of our volume, and so about half of revenue comes from ARBs. So if you're not charging them more, then you're missing out on half of that benefit. So I want to charge ARBs more. Basically, is this the short version?
I keep thinking all this volume going to ARBs is a symptom of a problem and not a.
No, it's just the constant product AMM pool. Like a swapper dislocates the pool and then the ARB relocates it. So basically, there's for every L1 swap, there's an equal amount of ARB volume. It's just the math.
Yeah, but by increasing the price to ARBs, you also decrease the volume of L1 swaps, right?
I don't know. I mean, for generally, sure.
Maybe not for XMR because we're like the only game in town.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's why I'm not for I mean, I do completely separately. I do think there's still an argument to be made that we should raise our fees across the board, but I'm not trying to open that can of worms right now. But yeah, if you raise the minBPS, then you are changing how close to the regular market price the pools can get. So if there's a 50 bips minBPS, then the ARBs can never relocate the price within 50 bips. But if a swapper is going the opposite direction, that's actually great because then it's 50 bips cheaper than it would be otherwise. So it's not the hugest end of the world if we're a little bit dislocated, in my opinion. And then, yeah, I mean, I think permissionless Monero swaps, there's going to be so much demand that this is a meaningless, the small dislocation of price is meaningless, in my opinion. And we could, instead of making 10, we're making 50. So that's a 5x revenue. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer personally. And yeah, so
I'm
yeah.
really curious.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, I cut you off, Boone. I'm really curious to see what this does for Monero. So much buy pressure, hopefully, on Monero, I would think, because it's been gated, right? It's been a gated asset.
Well, it goes both ways, though.
Of course, yes, of course. But I'm so excited to see. I have a feeling there's going to be more buy pressure in the direction of Monero, just because it's been so sequestered. People just don't want to buy on the centralized exchange. That's just me theorizing. But we are at the 2-hour mark.
Denny,
go ahead.
Denny, your new hat is affecting your internet. I think this is the first time you've had internet.
Shit! Can you guys hear me?
Oh, it's better now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold the mic right here, boys, and you can
Well,
hear
I
the
thought
smooth,
we-
sensual nature of my voice. Am I okay?
It wasn't your mic; it was your internet was cutting in and out.
Oh,
So
great. Well, okay, this 2 hours. Oh, okay, I'm sounding good right now, Chad. I want to make sure I kick it to you before we wrap. Is there anything else that you want to mention? Because I know we try to keep this at 2 hours.
Trying to think of anything that. Let me bring up my sheet real quick. Just remind me what's going on in the world of THORChain.
A lot of things are.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of Mimirs that I've been wanting to flip for a while, like the reserve max cap Mimir, turning on memoless outbound. I don't think we've done that yet. The longer limit swap is one thing. I think Boone actually was advocating for that one among other people as well. There's another Mimir to enable direct ERC20 memoless, so you can send memoless ERC20s to a vault directly instead of just the router. That's something we've been talking about a little bit.
that's router V6, right?
Yes, that's one of the requirements, but then you also have to Mimir it on a per chain basis. But yes, but we have to continue rolling out router V6, which has been delayed for a while now due to a handful of reasons. Tau will be part of the 320 release, hopefully, along with the free stable swaps concept. It won't be turned on, of course, it has to go through Mimir, but and then yeah, I think that's more or less all the big stuff, at least.
The reserve hard cap, Chad. So just to make sure we're talking about the same thing, that's that the 0.02 rune per transaction fee and the extra outbound gas fee that the protocol charges the keeps as a profit. That goes into the reserve, right? And,
Yeah.
And so we want to start setting that out to the network to nodes and pools and whatnot become part of system income.
Yep.
But so the way I understand it, let's just say the cap's 9 million. So if the reserve is over 9 million, then it will distribute the rune according to the block rewards distribution formula.
Yeah, it uses the block admission mathematics to calculate how much of the rune that's over the 9 million to be put into the system income. And so we probably want to enable the emission curve to be a much higher number or lower number. I can't remember which direction we're going.
Well, so you have a couple of questions, because like the emission, technically we still have block rewards. We've just reduced them to like 2 a year. And so
yeah, something like that. I don't know the
It's
specifics.
2 a day.
2 a day. So like if we change the emission curve, will that affect the 9 million rune in the reserve?
I don't know off the top of my head. I have to look into the
Okay.
code, to be honest.
And then the other one is when we have a double spend error and nodes get slashed, nodes are slashed and that rune goes into the reserve.
Mhm.
And then we have to do a store migration to pay nodes back, pay BPs back. That rune was slashed wrongly, whatever, because we
Yeah, I mean, you're still going to just like, instead of going back down to 9 million, say you get a slash and you go from 9 million to 10 million, just to keep the numbers easy.
Yeah.
And then we emit back, 0.1 of the extra million that was put in. You still just emit it below the 9 to get back the 1 million total. And then we just build back up to the 9 again, if that makes sense. It's a little bit of a hand wavy,
I see what you're saying. Okay, so
we might go below the 9 million, which the case we wouldn't emit much at all until we build back up to the 9, and then we exceed it.
but if we
Why don't we just go right into system income? Why does it have to go into the reserve first? I've never been clear on this.
What do you mean? The slashing?
No, the slashing makes it so for example, I was surprised to learn that the Ruggira fee share goes into the reserve. It doesn't go direct into system income, which just seemed odd to me. Like, why
Well,
why this
Ruggira is a different conversation, I guess, in some sense.
well, okay, but like,
But in the sense, like, we're trying to establish with the reserve max cap, whatever, is that if we get a surplus of anything, and there's a handful of different ways rune can go into the reserve, right? Slashing is one, gas fees another one. There's probably like 6 of them, or I can't even remember it off the top of my head. Ruggira being another one. Is that when we are over the max number of 9 million, or the number might be, that we put it back into the system income in one form or another. No matter what is the mechanism that put rune into the reserve, it just comes back out into as income for the protocol.
But so let's just say we have 9 million in reserve, and then there's an extra 1,000 goes into the reserve. So we have 1,000 rune we want to send out to the network as yield. Over what time frame is that 1,000 rune distributed? In one day?
That depends upon the emission curve. Right?
Okay.
If the emission curve is very kind of long, then you secrete a very small amount over a very long period of time.
Okay.
If it's the opposite, then you could secrete the whole thing or very close to the whole thing in a block or two, right?
So, yeah, and in my mind, like, we don't want this being distributed out over 10 years. We want it being distributed out over like a month.
Right, that just depends upon the emission curve, yeah.
Okay. So let's say we jack the emission curve to distribute it over the course of a month. We get a slash and there's 1 million rune go into the reserve. That 1 million rune is going to get distributed over the course of a month. It often takes us a month to do the store migration and get the code in. And so so not only will we distribute 1 million rune as extra yield to the network, and then do 1 million rune store migration, now the reserve's at 8 million, and we basically just emitted an extra 1 million rune when we didn't really want to.
Yeah, we reclaim it back over time.
yeah, but it takes a while to get 1 million rune in the reserve.
I don't know, dude. For fuck's sake. If you want, we can move the slash into a slashing thing or something, whatever. Like, this is not really a big problem.
I would like that. I think. I think
if
we're
like
overloading. I think we're overloading the reserve right now. Like, it's serving too many functions, probably.
Okay.
Well, I think we're coming at 2 hours, right? So I think there's probably a conversation. There's a whole can of worms we could go with this. So I know we're coming at about 2 hours and 8 minutes. I don't like to shut down a conversation or nothing. I mean, if you guys want to keep going, we can. But my brain, I keep saying, just I don't want to.
No, we can wrap.
Okay, I don't want to keep chatting because I love how much time we get with them, so I appreciate it. Kenton, before we wrap, is there anything you want to say on the market front or anything else at all, or?
No.
Okay, very good. Well, I guess, hey, Chad and and Boone, thank you for testing. Monero, thank you guys for your hard work. I'm so glad THORChain's back. Shout out to the devs, shout out to the community for really just sticking through it the month. I think everyone behaved really well. I think everyone's like war veterans. I think everyone's got so much PTSD that they've just been so hard and they're shell shocked, but in a good way. Like, they're tough. They don't complain. They don't whine. So yeah, shout out to everyone out there. So I love it, you guys. All right, let's wrap this thing. If you'd like to become a node operator, you guys, and you need some help, please reach out to @RuneTard on X. He can help you get set up and find bond providers. Do it if you've got the technical skill. We want to have you guys. For THORChain data and insights, please follow @RayAnalytics on X. He does written recaps of these podcasts too. Love that guy. Please give him a follow, you guys. He totally deserves it. And always remember, you guys, these views are expressed solely of the hosts and guests. Any action taken based on this information is at your own risk. Past performance is not indicative of future results. The THORChain community does not endorse or condone illicit activity of any kind whatsoever. This Saturday, we're going to have Amir Taki. I hope I'm saying that correct. I'm sorry if I'm not. Very well-known KOL in the Monero community, super famous. I know a lot of people are super excited. I know I am. I feel honored talking to the individual. I'm really looking forward to that one, you guys. So, guys, check out that one. You do not want to miss that episode. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today. And appreciate, again, thanks out to the community for doing such a great job. We'll catch you on the next one, guys. Take care now. Bye-bye.